Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of The Terri Cole Show. I am so glad that you are with me today. I want to start with a question, which is I want you to think about your life right now, and I just want you to think about what are you tolerating, right? What are the small and annoying things that get on your nerves, but that you're tolerating in your life? Can you identify them? Because that's what this entire episode is about. Looking at what you're tolerating, because so much of the time these things just, it's like we're low-grade aggravated about them all the time, but it's also we don't really do anything about them. So I'm hoping that by us talking about it today in this episode is going to raise your awareness about what you might be tolerating so that you can change that. So before we get started, if you happen to be new to my YouTube channel, well, hello and welcome. Introduce yourself in the comments because we are a very friendly bunch. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so that you get notified every time I roll out something new, which is every Tuesday and every Thursday. Since I do it for you, you might as well hit the bell and subscribe. Why don't you? Because what I do know, and I've been talking about this lately because it's so mind-blowing, that 67% of the people who regularly watch this channel are not subscribed. I don't get it. Why not? So if you're one of those people, hey, today's the day. Give me a gift. I feel like this is a free channel. I do minimal advertising on purpose because I think it's annoying. And I want you guys to have a really good experience. So what you can do for me is you can subscribe. Thank you so much for being here. You know I appreciate you. Let's move it on into today's episode. All right, so let's think about in life in general, right? As human beings, right? Especially for those of us raised as women, especially those of us who identify as high-functioning codependents, we've learned how to tolerate a lot. Like if there were awards given out for tolerating stuff, we would be winning, right? We tend to accept, we tend to take on, we tend to put up with, we tend to be weighed down by other people's behavior, right? Other people's bad boundaries, other people's entitlement, other people's unmet needs, their incompleteness, their problems, their frustration. And a lot of times we're tolerating our own behavior as well, right? Bad habits that we've fallen into, limiting beliefs, staying in situations that are not that great. And even if you sort of make it look easy breezy, it definitely takes a toll on you and on your health and on how you feel. And you're probably tolerating more than you know. I talk about this quite a bit in my courses and in my mastermind and in my groups, in my Terri Cole membership, because we can get really desensitized to what we're tolerating. So let's move into, I'm starting to, as I was saying at the top, percolating around you thinking about what you're tolerating. This could be something big or something small. It could be something that you've been tolerating for a long time, or it could be something that you just started happening. So think about the big stuff, right? It's to put up with, right? Think about tolerating in the same category as stuff you're putting up with, right? And that has a particular feel. So if you close your eyes and think about what am I putting up with, that hits different. Can you feel that in your body sort of in a different way? I definitely can. I feel like putting up with hits different. And what is it? What could it be? It could be having your office super cluttered, right? It could be having your bedroom messy. It could be having a car that's a mess. Maybe it's something small, like there's a caustic light in your bedroom or in your workspace that you hate, that it's bright and just, every time you put it on, you're like, ugh. But you don't change the bulb. You just make note of every time you're in there. And listen, I've done all of these things, you guys, so obviously no judgment. Maybe it's the oil in your car needs to be changed, and you just haven't done it. And every time you start your car, you see a light, and you're like, oh my God, I've got to do it. What we're tolerating sometimes is the chores that we're putting off, or the things that we need to do that could be bigger too, right? What if what you're tolerating is a crappy relationship, or bad boundaries from other people, or a boundary bully, or a narcissist, right? it could be more than just the small things, but I want you to think about everything. I want you to think about, in all areas of your life, what are you putting up with? This could be messy closets. It could be one-sided friendships or friendships that cause you stress or non-reciprocal friendships. It could be bad communication with your partner, with your siblings, with your friends. It could be things in your house that need to be fixed or things in your apartment that need to be fixed but never seem to get fixed, right? Does your house itself, if you have a house, need a paint job? Or does the inside of it need to be painted, right? Are you taking care of your car if you have a car? Do you want more? Do you want to have a higher level of education, let's say? Or maybe you don't like your job, or maybe you're not moving your body, or maybe you're not making enough money, right? There's so many things that we could be putting up with. A lot of it is in relationships, though. So I want you to think about that specifically. What are the things that you're putting up with in your relationship? So we're going to be, and all of this is going to be in the guide, you guys, terricole.com/guide. Because here's the thing, what we're putting up with is exhausting us. It's depleting our energy. And for me, my space being messy is very depleting. So I do my best, but I don't always keep it perfectly picked up because I get a lot of books, because I have, I'm always interviewing authors. Like I have piles of books everywhere that I'm trying to figure out, what am I doing with? Am I keeping some? Am I giving them away once I've read them? That clutter really drains my energy and absolutely makes me exhausted. And so I'll get motivated and I'll clean it up and then I'll feel so much better. The same way that every time I see something that drains my energy, I make note of it. I'm like, I gotta decide what to do with those books. I'll say it. I will pass that pile of books, you guys, 400 times and say it. And the same thing happens when I clean it up. I notice how nice and wide open my space feels. And I'll walk in and say, I love this room. It feels so nice and airy right now. I love it. So I know I am being profoundly affected by what I'm tolerating. And yet, even as a therapist for almost 30 years, I still do it myself. So trust me, there's no judgment. This is just part of the human condition. Things can just get unfinished. You can just hold on to things like how many, let's say, lotion bottles do you have with a little bit of lotion left in them? Right? Like, just get rid of them. It's okay. It really is okay. Do your best. We don't want to be wasteful, but those last 1 ounce of body lotion or body gel or shower gel, just either put the water in it and use it or chuck it out because you don't need that stuff. This is very like Marie Kondo, where she talks about what in your space gives you joy. Right? And her whole thing about clearing spaces is that if it doesn't bring you joy, it can go on the giveaway pile, let's say. And it's hard to part with things. And I'll ask you a couple of questions. I'll put it in the guide for you, sort of about when it comes to things, do you have a tendency to hold on to things? Because some people, my husband is one of them, and I'm pretty bad too, have sort of a pack rat nature, where I'm like, I could use it. I don't want to waste it. But here's what I do. So this is one of my tricks, is that I collect things that I still think are good and valuable, and I give them to Goodwill. So if my stuff is going somewhere, if I feel like someone will use it, it will get put to use. I can't stand the notion that it's going to go into a landfill. So I think we all have our psychological reasons as to why we may hold on to too much stuff. But what I want this episode to do for you is to raise your awareness, because we all have our reasons as to why we're tolerating the specific things that we are. And as you'll see in the guide, go to terricole.com/guide, you'll see how we're going to list out the areas of your life, because it could be something as like simple as a bathroom leak. Right? You might have a faucet that's dripping, or like a toilet that runs. Have you ever had that experience, a toilet that you flush it, but then it still runs and you can hear it? Now, being a highly sensitive person, I cannot have any of that. That just makes me, it's just too much. So we're going to start thinking about, what are you tolerating at home? And that means, the physical space of your home, the physical condition of wherever you live. What are you tolerating in work, your office, your business, if you're an entrepreneur, whatever it is? What are you tolerating in your relationships? Because again, this is a big one. And what are you tolerating within yourself? Do you have habits that you say you're going to stop, but you don't? Whether it might be about eating not that great, or eating late at night, or it could be drinking too much, or, a lot of my clients really got into self-numbing behaviors during the pandemic. And most people have sort of backed up from it a bit, but some have not. And I feel like that's something that we really need to look at. One of my friends is recently stopped drinking. She was more of a shadow addiction type person. And you guys know what that is if you know my work, because it's a phrase that I coined. It's doing something because we need to numb our feelings. But I call it a shadow addiction because a lot of times with shadow addictions, they never become like the full-blown shit show addiction that like takes down your entire life, that dismantles your entire life, that you're not necessarily torching the village with this behavior, but it still isn't good for you. It's still something to be aware of in your life. Where are you numbing your feelings? Or where are you doing things that are counter? I had a client who continued to be sexual with her ex, and she was like, it makes me feel bad, but she kept doing it. And when we really got down to the bottom line of why, is that it was almost like the devil you know. She was like, well, at least I know them. It's not what I want, and this person isn't what I want, and they're not willing to give me or can't, and incapable of giving me what I want. And so when we really got down to what is the secondary gain of you continuing that behavior? So secondary gain, I'll put this also in the guide for you. Those of you who are not sure what those questions are, you ask yourself, what do I get to not face, not feel, and not experience by staying stuck here, whatever that is? So with that client, what do I get to not face, not feel, not experience by continuing to have sex with my ex, which is what she was doing? And she said, I don't have to be vulnerable to new people. I don't have to go out and get out of my comfort zone and do something new and different, because it's more scary to do that than it is to stay in this familiar habit, even though I know this familiar habit is not going to get me what I want in life. I'm like, okay, so let's deal with the fear of vulnerability and meeting new people rather than talking about the symptom of the problem, which was her having sex with her ex, right? That wasn't really the problem. The problem underneath the problem, which is why secondary gain is so sneaky. And if you can really learn how to use that tool, the secondary gain questions that I created, it will help you so much. Because how often are you saying to yourself, why am I doing that? Or I'm not going to do that. Then you do it. Then you feel like shit the next day. Anybody? Secondary gain questions, which will be in the guide, terricole.com/guide, will be helpful for you to sort of preemptively have a deeper understanding of different kinds of self-sabotaging behavior. So you're going to do your list, which I'm guiding you in the guide to how are you going to do it. And what can you do instead of doing behaviors that don't work for you, right? What can you do instead of sort of settling, right? Because it's a different way of saying the same thing. When we talk about what are you putting up with, that's kind of the same as what are you settling for, right? Because we know both of those phrases indicate that whatever it is not optimal, right? So you're acknowledging the truth when you do your little inventory about what you're tolerating in different areas, right? Whether it's your relationship, your career, friendship, family situation. And these are the things that you're getting really clear for yourself that you no longer want to tolerate. So what can we do? I think we have to really look and face our fears, right? Just like my client did. She faced her fears and started dating again. We have to face your fear. What is it, right? Maybe you're afraid to hurt someone's feelings, right? Maybe you're afraid to lose mutual friends. Maybe you're, if you're thinking, let's say if you're thinking about separating in your relationship, maybe you're afraid of losing that life or losing those friends, afraid of the fallout if you make a change, afraid of making the wrong decision in these different situations. And it's okay to be afraid, right? And it doesn't have to stop you from making these changes. Let's say you want to make a career move, right? You might need to save money. So part of this process of figuring out what you're tolerating and how to not tolerate it is we have to plan, right? So great, start saving money with the specific intention of using it to bridge the gap between leaving your current job and starting the next job. We can't just stay in denial, right? There are strategic moves that you can make for sure to prepare for any change, but you really have to face your fears in order to do it. And I also want to invite you to challenge the smallness of your dreams. I challenge you to dream big. What do you really want to do in life? Right? Many years ago, I attended a small group event with Deepak Chopra, and he asked, if money, time, and failure were no object, what would you spend your time doing? So, reflecting on this, I realized that I didn't want to continue being a talent agent, right? That I was afraid to switch jobs because what I was doing was prestigious, it was lucrative, I was making tons of money, and I was afraid of making less money, but I was also afraid of not being masterful because I had been in that career for almost 10 years. So I continued to stay, even though it really wasn't my heart's desire. And I wondered, what would my life look like if I were poor again, which I had done pretty well before that. But I wondered, could I do it? What if I wasn't a talent agent? How would my self-identity be if I wasn't doing that? So when I asked myself, what lights me up, right? It was helping people. So something was different, right? So part of that is how I decided to go back to school and become a psychotherapist, right? I opened a private practice, but it was getting past those limiting fears. And I was not doing it until Deepak Chopra really prompted me to think about it through that lens. What would I do? What would I spend my time doing if I knew I couldn't fail and money and time were no object? I'm like, I would definitely help people. So if this helped you, I hope it did. If you like this style of learning, I invite you to join my membership, the Terri Cole membership. It's terricole.com/TCM. We do this every single week. This is what we do. And actually in the membership, we're talking more about what do we do instead of tolerating. Once we identify what we are putting up with, now what are we going to do to change our lives? So I've given you the tip of the iceberg, and I'm giving you the guide, terricole.com/guide. But I would love you to check out the membership as well. Because if you like this container, if you like this style, if you like this podcast, if you like this YouTube channel, then I think you would love my community. And I would love to see you on the inside. I hope you guys have the most amazing week. And as always, take care of you.